Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Alan Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe University. We're here until 8 o'clock talking Charlotte 49ers basketball tonight. Love to hear from you tonight. Our phone number, as always, is 704-332-0173, 704-332-0173. Alongside Lanny Ford from ESPN 730 and Niner head coach Alan Major, I'm Matt Swarad. Welcome again to the Alan Major Show. And, Coach, a busy week. Every week is it's a new challenge for the 49ers, and this is our first week where we have back-to-back road games in conference play.
Yeah.
Going to two of the tougher venues in the A-10, that's for sure. Butler and then St. Louis. But as you like to say, it's a great opportunity for this Niner team this week.
Yeah, it is. It is. You got two teams that I was actually just watching their game today where they played against each other a couple weeks ago. And St. Louis is really aggressive, and it was an uncharacteristic Butler performance, something that you don't see them do, often, where they're kind of, they weren't quite in the game, for most of it, but that was very uncharacteristic of them, and St. Louis really played great. But you got two great places, different types of venues, Hinkle being historic, and then obviously St. Louis's place, they tend to have a lot of whiteouts there, and they've got that place going as well. So, at the same time, great opportunity.
That game you were talking about, St. Louis at St. Louis beat Butler 75-58. It was kind of an uncharacteristic game for the Butler Bulldogs, but that just shows you how good St. Louis is, and especially at Chaifetz Arena, they've been really good since that building's opened up, and they are one of the top teams in this league. So
absolutely,
that was an interesting matchup, and going to Hinkle Fieldhouse on Wednesday, as you brought that up. That's going to be a lot of fun because, we know the history of the building. And for folks that maybe don't know this, if they saw the movie Hoosiers years ago, the final, scene, the Indiana State Championship was set there at Hinkle Fieldhouse. And,
that's right.
And if you look at the great college basketball venues across the country, Hinkle has to certainly be put in that mix.
Absolutely. Yeah, we may measure the rim and measure the 15-foot foul line. I don't know if anybody will run in there. We may yell out Charlotte as opposed to Hickory when we're going for
Who's going to shoot the underhand free throws?
That's right. I don't know. We'll draw straws for that one, but no, it's a unique place, and they just had some wonderful games there in terms of the high school basketball history of that building. So no, it's a fun environment.
Yourself growing up in Indiana, what is it like going back there? What are your memories of Indiana basketball when you were a kid?
They've got the class system now, and probably the thing I enjoyed growing up watching as a kid was they didn't have a class system for the longest time. So the state tournament, literally, that Final Four could be anybody. Wow. You could have a school with 500 kids in it going against a school with 2,000 kids in it, and that could end up being a championship game at times. And so the parity and some of the matchups and some of the out of nowhere, who's this little group of guys, coming from the country. And I remember Scott Skiles, playing, again, for Plymouth. It was a small little school out of southern Indiana. And it was one of those magical. There used to be some of those magical runs that a team would just come out of nowhere, and that probably for me, just growing up and watching high school basketball and being a part of it, that was neat.
Coach, when you talk about that and the history and the heritage of the high school game up there, did that follow through? Is that what caused the schools in Indiana? I mean, you've got quite a few that are really pretty good basketball schools.
Yeah.
Is that kind of set the tone for them and how they develop when kids really didn't travel far?
Yeah, I think so. And it's just it's become a little bit more a little bit more predictable now once you get into that class system, because you kind of know from year to year, all right, this handful of schools in this particular class is going to end up being pretty good. But back then it was a pretty unique deal. I mean, you really got to see some special runs.
There were a lot of folks that didn't want to see that system end. They wanted to keep it the way it was.
Yeah. No, they did. It went tooth and nail there for a few years before they actually got it done.
Is that one of the few or one of the last states to really do away with that? And I'm assuming it's just basketball.
I think it was, because football's got a class system too. But, I'm not sure if there's any schools, or what states still have that wide open setup. But I know Indiana was definitely one of the last to do it.
704-332-0173 is our phone number. That is the next game for the 49ers on Wednesday night against the Butler University Bulldogs. Now, you've been joking around and said you think the building's haunted because Butler's had so many close games where they've just pulled it out with dramatic endings. The one against Gonzaga this year has to go into their record books as if not one of the best. It might be the best finish of a game. With, 0.4 seconds left, they steal an inbounds pass and he hit a runner with I think it was like 1/10 of a second left on the clock when it left his hand. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah, and that's I think one of the things when you go play at a place like that is you have to compete against the atmosphere. You're competing against Butler and the 5 guys are on the court, but part of your mental, the mental competition is competing against that atmosphere. Because buildings like that, whether it's there or maybe an assembly hall. I remember being a manager at Purdue, and you go to Indiana, and some of it was just those swaying banners in the end zone there of the of assembly hall, and just the 18,000 people going nuts. You had to compete against that, and now it's a basketball game. But if you let that environment get you, and you're competing against the other team, then that's it can become a bit of a strain mentally. So I'm actually really excited to see how our guys go in that environment and respond.
It's interesting. You kind of brought up in a joking way that you're going to go measure the rims and things like that. But, there's something to that because you talk about Indiana. I remember the times that we went in to play the Hoosiers. We did beat them last time we were there on Brendan Plavik's last second half-court heave. It was an unbelievable finish.
Right.
But the first few times we went in there, I remember on a Saturday we were there early, and you mentioned the banners, and they're huge banners on one side of the floor. And all of a sudden, the pep band comes out. They've got their candy striped pants on. They're warming up before the game. And I distinctly remember the band leader talking to the members of the band and kind of giving them that pregame pep talk of what it meant to be part of Indiana basketball. And they take it really seriously. So there is an atmosphere that you're playing against on top of the team as well.
Exactly. And they, when you've built success, the way they have, obviously they have an expectation that, hey, we're at home, we're gonna win the game. We're at home. So I think the teams that go in there and have success, and match the environment with poise, match the physicality of the game because teams are more aggressive and probably a little bit more physical when they're at home. So you match that, and then you've got to shrink it to where it's a basketball game. So now those other factors don't become involved, in the thing mentally.
You talk about VCU and Butler have come in. VCU is a little bit of a newcomer to the national notoriety, but Butler is a team that nobody wanted to see when you got into March.
Right.
Because that was one of those teams, it's considered the mid-major. It was one of those teams that scared a lot of high-profile teams.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think
not being at home, just anywhere.
Just anywhere, exactly. Yeah, neutral setting, Hawaii, doesn't matter. But I think they would probably still like to have that mid-major label on them. So now it looks like you're overachieving.
So they can sneak up on people.
No, they're high major all the way in terms of, I think high major schools sometimes get labeled for profile sake. But I think what makes you high major is how you perform. And so they may be a mid-major school in terms of size, but they're performing on a high major level.
Our phone number is 704-332-0173. You're listening to the Alan Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe out by the university, and we're here until 8 o'clock tonight. One of the recent home games for Butler was against the University of Rhode Island, a team the Niners played and beat on the road in Rhode Island to start conference season. And the Rams went in there and gave the Bulldogs a pretty good battle. They lost the game 75-68, but led at halftime. And if it wasn't for a really poor second-half shooting performance by the Rams, they might have beaten Butler that day.
Yeah.
Have you had a chance to watch any of that tape?
That one I have not, actually. Butler's, I've looked at all their personality stuff. We kind of give our guys a dose of what a team's personality is, and then all their personnel stuff, all the guys that play, 7 or 8 clips on every guy that gets into the game. And then kind of focusing on the St. Louis Butler game this afternoon because I was really curious to see, was Butler uncharacteristic that day or was St. Louis that good? Because with Butler's style of play, them losing by 17 is almost like, 25 for somebody else. that's a huge loss for them. I was really curious to see, why that was. And the thing that was impressive, I mean, St. Louis, their crowd, they really set an incredible defensive tone in the first half, where just Butler had very few open looks, and they sustained it pretty much for the whole game.
That's a game that we'll talk more about before the night is over as well. And it just happens to be the next two opponents for the 49ers, at Butler on Wednesday, at St. Louis this coming weekend on Saturday in St. Louis. So we'll take a break here on the Allen Major Show. Come back with more. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. We're at Wild Wing Cafe, 711 West Mallard Creek Church Road. Come on out. Join us. We're here until 8 o'clock. This is the Allen Major Show from IMG College. Welcome back to Wild Wing Cafe University, the Allen Major Show. Niner basketball coming up on Wednesday at Butler, and then on Saturday at the University of St. Louis. We're joined with Niners head coach Allen Major tonight here at Wild Wing Cafe alongside Lanny Ford from ESPN 730. And the Niners trying to regroup a little bit, go on the road at 17-6, and right now 5-4 in the Atlantic 10, coming off of a couple of tough losses against Temple last Wednesday in Philadelphia, and this past Saturday losing for the first time this season at Halton Arena against a very good VCU team. 68-61 was the final in that one. Coach, let's go back for a moment and talk about Temple for a second. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. In that Temple game, it was a game where they showed a lot of resiliency, battling back numerous times, down 13 in the first half, tied the game at halftime, and then fell back, I think, down 12 in the closing 5 minutes, and again had a possession late in the game where you could have tied the game. So when you look at that, I mean, that's a pretty positive thing to take from that game.
It was. I think the guys showed some resilience in terms of fighting and scrapping, and the game was just out of character for both teams. Because we were sitting here last week looking at our numbers and looking at their numbers, and they weren't that far off, both offensively and defensively. And then I love the way we scored the ball. I just didn't like giving up 89. I love scoring 88. But both the game was really just kind of out of whack for both teams. But, I like the fight and the scrap that we showed to cut back into that thing and have a chance to send it into overtime.
Coach, we talked about it last Thursday after the game. You had to be pleased with the way they did come back as close as the game was, and that was probably your best effort away to come up on the losing end.
Yeah.
And anything specific that you could come away with on how that happened? Or
Well, it's funny. I'm looking at the stat sheet, and, Wyatt had 22 points. He's a terrific player. Randall, their second leading scorer, had 2 points. Lee, their third leading scorer, had 9 points. Now, two guys came in and had almost magical nights off the bench. The kid O'Brien, who was a one-year transfer guy from Boston U, had 22. And then the other kid, Pepper, who was a transfer from West Virginia, had 11. So it was kind of like an anything-but game. And if you look at it, you're saying, okay, you did a good job in terms of the guys you spent the majority of the scouting time on. It was when the ball went to guys that we made their scorers throw the ball to. They found ways to convert and make some shots. So to their credit, they made them. But that hasn't been their MO all season. So you, in a sense, you hate to lose a game, but you made two guys play totally out of character in order for that to happen.
And you play, you got to be pleased in following the game plan, because you talk about all the time, make somebody else beat you.
Absolutely.
And you're going to play the odds that
Right.
that other guy can't beat you.
Right. No, and unfortunately, it didn't go our way that night. You're really trying to force guys that aren't used to doing that and aren't relied on to do that. Their supplemental guys had to become primary scorers. And very rarely does that happen when a supplemental guy that's, 6-8 points a game becomes a primary scorer on a given night. So, to their credit, they made some shots when they needed to.
And O'Brien, certainly, you mentioned to their credit, here's a guy that had a chance for a big night, and he took advantage of it. And, coming in with a scout report, here's a 6'9" guy that steps outside, and we know that that he can hit that three-point shot. And he was about as good as he could possibly be in that night.
I thought so, yeah, and that's to win by one. So, again, you don't like the fact that, guys had, big nights like that. But, again, it wasn't who you didn't want to do it. It was other guys that had to do it. And, either one of those guys misses one shot out of any of the shots they made, we win the game. So, you know, you always try to steal some things from it that are some positives, and that was a couple of them.
Coach, let's go to the phone lines. Our first call of the night. Tommy is standing by. Tommy, welcome to the Alan Major Show.
Yep, thanks. Thanks for taking my call.
Good evening, Tommy.
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Doing well, sir.
I was at the game Saturday night. Probably it's the last game I'll make it to this year. And a couple of questions. One of them is DeMario Mayfield's status for the remainder of the year. And I guess just a comment and a question, too, about Ingram. To me, he seems still to be reluctant to want to fire that ball up there. And I know Bronkovich in the last two games, if that's not sure that's how you pronounce his last name, but I think he's had 11 minutes and has yet to, didn't get a shot off. So is there anything you can do for screening the baseline or out on the top of the key to get some of your shooters open?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll take the second question first. Actually, I'll take the first question first, because with that being a departmental issue, I can't. I'm not at liberty to comment on that one. So we're still, waiting to see what happens with that. But in terms of those two guys, I'll give VCU a little bit of credit. They did a good job of trying to do what we call closing out, to those two guys quickly when they had opportunities. So as we move forward, we're going to continue to throw especially Ivan into the lineup. And, we've already been tweaking with finding him some ways to get him some looks, because you feel like when he does get an open look, you think it's going in.
Yeah, he seems to be a real good shooter, and I noticed Saturday night, to me, he seemed to be a little bit overwhelmed by the pressure that VCU put on him, especially when they run out on him in double teaming. So he seemed to be having a little bit of trouble with that.
Yeah, that's new for a young guy, and I
yeah.
think that was their way of trying to say, okay, like we said with Temple, we're not going to let certain guys do what they do best. And their thing was, hey, let's try to see if we can speed him up or just make him get rid of it, because they probably felt like we do. If we let him get one off, he's probably going to make it.
Yeah. And I just know if I had been the coach Saturday night, I would have probably got thrown out of the game, and I've been watching most of the game from the locker room probably.
Yeah, it was, I usually try to maintain my character with those guys, and, there were 3 or 4 that I thought were just a little bit out of whack where, I just didn't want anybody to get hurt. It was almost headed that direction where you feel like if this keeps on going, somebody may get hurt. So, but that's, we told our guys after the game, that's the lesson you learn, that you always want to make sure that we continue to set that type of tone where we tell the refs what they're doing as opposed to letting the other team do it a little bit.
Yeah, but I think they stayed in there pretty close, and just to lose by 6 at the end, that was a pretty good effort. So
yeah, I thought our guys showed some good fight, and with our roster adjustments we're dealing with here recently, and obviously, unfortunately, you losing JT, makes us a little bit younger, but
yeah.
I'm really excited for these guys to continue to get experience and grow, and that's going to do nothing but help us here as we get ready for the stretch run.
Okay, well, and good luck Wednesday night.
Thank you, Tommy. Go Niners, buddy. Thanks for the call.
Go Niners.
All right, thanks, Tommy. Our phone number is 704-332-0173. 332-0173. Coach, let's talk about JT Thompson for a moment. Really, it's a sad story for JT because of how hard he's certainly worked to get back to be able to play for the 49ers and be a contributor. And he still can in other ways, but he's not going to be able to finish out his college career on the floor with another ACL injury, and he's just kind of been snake-bitten with these knee injuries. And, again, it's just sad to see.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, you're talking the third time, and, disappointing deal. I mean, the kid has been through an awful lot. And, we can always sit here and say, boy, you feel bad. Boy, it must be tough. But, we don't really even have a shred of an idea what that feels like, to just, fight back, have another one, fight back, have another one. And so, I just feel bad for him. But the contributions he gave us, while he was on the floor, were almost to a T what we were looking for in terms of experience, bringing you toughness, bringing you an experienced guy. So just a tough situation.
He was still there cheering on the team against VCU and will be, of course, going forward. But I guess, as you talk about rehabbing, that's just got to be something. And, you've done it twice, and you got to do it again just for your overall health,
right.
going forward.
Just because, yeah.
There's got to be something. I have no idea what that's like, and it's unbelievable.
Yeah, the reason why you want to get it right, regardless of, basketball or no basketball, is just so you can bounce your kids on your knee when you're 35, 40 years old, or, just have a quality of life where you're not having arthritis and all that stuff going. You're probably going to have some to some degree anyway, but you want to try to get it as right as you can, just so you can have a good quality of life the rest of the way.
Coach, let's take a break. Come back with a lot more of the show. We're here until 8 o'clock here at Wild Wing Cafe University. You're listening to the Alan Majors Show from IMG College. Welcome back to the Alan Majors Show here at Wild Wing Cafe University. The Niners getting set for a big week of basketball on the road at Butler and at St. Louis. And the game on Wednesday, of course, from Hinkle Fieldhouse will tip at 7. And you can watch it locally here in Charlotte as well. So you can put the video on the TV and turn the sound off and put us up and get the home broadcast as well coming up on Wednesday night. Niners are 17-6, taking on the Butler Bulldogs, who have played awfully well in their first season in the A-10. They're 20-4 right now, and 7-2, tied for first place with St. Louis and VCU atop the A-10 right now. And they're also 12-0 at Hinkle Fieldhouse. So we're going to go in there and try and knock them off for the first time and break that winning streak at home.
Yeah, definitely. It's that's one of those environments at times, coaches will kind of like to joke and say it's, 5 against 8. But you try not to get into that too much. But no, it's a great challenge. And we were talking about earlier, part of the battle is just keeping your poise, and especially early on in those games. They're like any other team. They like to get off to a quick start at home, see if they can shake you up a little bit, get you rattled. So you want to get to that first 4-minute media timeout and say, okay, you're calm, you gotten off to a good start, getting the shots you want, and even being sticky on defense and creating a little doubt in their minds early on that they're not going to be able to get things easily.
We've talked about our issues, a little shorthanded going on the road, but we find out today Butler's going to be a little shorthanded as well. Andrew Smith got hurt against George Washington this past weekend. It was an abdominal injury. They say he's out for the next 2 games, which is our game on Wednesday, and then over the weekend they will travel to Fordham to play. So he's 6'11". He's their second leading scorer. So how does this change Butler without Smith in the equation?
It eliminates a back-to-the-basket threat. They've got another kid that steps in, Eric Fromm, that is probably a little bit more of a face-up guy. What I think it'll do is they'll probably try to open up the floor a little bit more and get some other guys driving the basketball, because when you lose a post player where you throw it in there, your next best bet to get closer is to try to drive it in there. So, I can see guys like Marshall being a little bit more aggressive, probably Roosevelt Jones being a little bit more aggressive. So some of the other guys I think will probably try to compensate in terms of doing what they do a little bit more.
You touched on it a little bit before when you talked about the physicality of the VCU game. Is VCU, would you say, the most physical, intense defensive team that will play or have played to date? I don't remember the games that I have seen anybody that physical or that in your face as much defensively.
Yeah, from a full court standpoint especially, and then even in the half court probably trying to deny. Florida State tried to get out there a little bit and deny, but I thought we handled that well. What they didn't do is they didn't get up the floor as much. And so that's where VCU tries to get you, is they try to get you in the back court, see if they can turn you over. Then they try to get you in the front court, and with a shortened, almost an NBA shot clock by the time you get reorganized. Yep. And now let's see, they'll try to deny and maybe see if they can blow up a couple of things and get you in a short clock. They want to try to force you into short clock situations.
And we talked about it, the broadcast on Saturday, that it seemed like there wasn't enough time to get the offensive set.
Right.
First with the pressure, and a lot of times it appeared they didn't really want to try to pick you, but they were just trying to beat the clock down.
Right.
And then once you got set up, they were still in your face, hard for you to get an offense set up and running.
Right. Trying to shrink you is like, say, people call shrinking the shot clock. And so what that forces you to do is maybe get into more quick hitters. And what that eliminates maybe is a chance to reverse the ball and break a defense down as much as you like. So you're relegated to a little bit more quick hitter type action. So, and we had some great looks. I mean, I look back at the film. P unfortunately had a missed layup. We had some free throw, issues there in the first half where it got a little contagious, the wrong way. But, actually we missed a bunch. And, a couple more field goals go down, or, you knock in a few more free throws, it's a totally different outcome. So those are the things that a young team is learning, that, you're marching for error, especially when you have some roster adjustments. It shrinks your margin for error a little bit, and you've got to stay on your path all the more.
Coach, when you look at what they did with the defense, and you didn't have a whole bunch of trouble against their full court press. Once you got it across the half court line, then they wanted to kind of trap out on the wings, and we had a few turnovers in that area. But
Right.
for the most part, handled their press pretty well.
Yeah, we did, and they did what I thought. They picked out a couple of the younger guys to try to really see if they could deal with it. Trying to trap Ivan.
And Denzel was another one.
Tried to speed Denzel up, maybe pin him on the sideline a little bit more, things like that. That didn't surprise me one bit. So kind of what we expected.
But still shot 51% for the game. That's 2 in a row where you've shot a high percentage. And as you go forward now in the second half of the conference season, that was one of the things when we kind of started the conference season was, okay, our defense is pretty good. Where are we going to get our points from?
Right.
But the offense is getting more in terms of just overall confidence, just each night getting out there putting out some pretty good numbers.
Yeah, and that's the next thing now. As you get into this time of year, it's little things, details on each side of the ball. So now it's let's continue to stay offensively efficient, just not give back too many possessions in terms of either a turnover, things of that nature. So, and then getting our defensive edge back. When you put those two things together, now that's what you're talking. If you can shoot 50%, force them to below 40, pretty good chance you're gonna win that game.
We'll take our next break here on the Allen Major Show. And when we come back, our special player guest segment is coming up, and we'll be joined by senior Lamar Bradbury. And we'll chat with Lamar coming up in a moment here from Wild Wing Cafe. You're listening to the Allen Major Show from IMG College. Welcome back to the Allen Major Show here at Wild Wing Cafe University. Time now for our special player guest segment. It's brought to us by Ortho Carolina, and we're joined by senior Lamar Bradbury. Lamar, thanks so much for taking some time to join us tonight.
Thanks for having me.
How you doing?
Great.
It's been a fun year, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's very exciting.
This is, of course, your last year now at the Niners, and heading into the final half of the conference season. What are your thoughts on how the season's been so far? We had the start with a great 9-0 start, winning up in Alaska, and 17 wins right now. It's got to be, at least from a basketball standpoint, with the teams you've been on here, one of your highlights.
Yeah, starting off the year being champion, I think that's a big highlight. Going down to Alaska and being able to hang a banner, and that's going to be there forever. But I'm excited to finish out February, looking into March with some momentum, and hanging up another banner for the Niners.
Talk about the level of play in the A-10 this year. Certainly, it's the best of the time we've been here in the 8 years in the A-10, and getting to be a part of it. What's it been like?
It's been exciting, just knowing you got competition every night. You got to bring your A game, and kind of bittersweet leaving the conference for next year. Although I won't be a part of it, but I feel like right now is a good time to be a part of the A-10.
Since Coach has been here, he's been trying to bring the former players back, and you being a local guy here in Charlotte, going forward, when you get your degree and you're able to look back in your time here with the 49ers, I'm guessing it's going to be great for you to be able to come back and be a part of it once you are gone.
Yeah, it's good to call home. I can come back in the locker room, see the guys, and be able to be good friends with the guys, and hopefully a future mentor for some kids that are coming on too. So.
My biggest question is, did you have the standard player meal of the big brownie meltdown with lots of chocolate and stuff, or did you break the mold? Because that's everybody else that comes in here, they don't eat any food, they just eat the big dessert.
Yeah, I got straight to the chicken, man.
Okay.
Chicken, wings, you name it.
Well,
cheese.
you're different. The rest of those guys come in, they just piled up with ice cream and cake. And
I don't need a sugar high.
Okay.
Yeah.
Trying to stay in shape. So I know during practice you really get at it. You take a lot of pride in working with the scout team and getting these guys ready for a game like Butler coming up on Wednesday night. Talk about the pride that you do take in your job with this Niner team.
Yeah, I take a lot of pride with definitely getting our teammates ready. When you lose the willingness to prepare to win, I think you really can't win a game. So, that's where it starts. 2 days before a game is actually the most exciting part. Getting ready for Wednesday. We treat Monday as the first half and Tuesday the second half. So, these practices coming up are very crucial for our success for Wednesday.
Being a senior, there's a few of you guys still left on this team, and
Yeah.
you know, Chris Braswell, Colby Lewis, JT. Do you guys talk at all as you know, we're now into February that boy, it's crunch time now?
Yeah, it's crunch time, and it's a sense of urgency for sure. We got some old heads like JT and Braz, and we always crack jokes about them. But I'm an old head too, but it's kind of cool to see, you know, JT. You know, I grew up playing basketball against him, and seeing him in his career with me is kind of cool, and seeing Braz develop into the player that he is and trying to finish out the year strong for him.
Being a local guy, do you get you know, added enjoyment seeing other players like Terrence Williams stay home and play for the 49ers?
I do, man. Terrence actually used to play post back in high school, and to see him develop to a guard is kind of cool. And it's kind of cool just to see a local guy stay home and actually get a chance to play in front of his family and friends. So, yeah, it's very exciting. I love it.
How about the freshmen on this team? The upside seems like for the future is very high.
Yeah, these freshmen don't look like freshmen. You know, Denzel Ingram stepped up. Darren Clark stepped up big time. Willie Clayton, he is strong. You know, he's very physical on the court. Came into college just ready. A lot of these guys that Coach Major bring in, they're just ready to play the game.
Now, how about for you? What's the future for you getting your degree and moving on? I know I had a chance to talk to you last summer about maybe interning over the Charlotte Knights, and you had another opportunity that came your way. But
Yeah.
I know a lot of folks with the Knights are really impressed. You got a great, bright future. What do you want to do?
Next step, I'll be starting off with Target. Did their executive team leadership, and honestly, it stretched me a lot. Helped me with my communication skills, allowed me to work great in teams. So that's right now. You know, down the road, I want to be a successful entrepreneur, hopefully. So that's kind of plans for right now. Just kind of taking it day by day.
You know, we got a chair open between Lanny and I, just like this. You know, you want to come down to Halton and kind of add a little analysis.
Why not? If you
You're
need
always
some more
welcome.
charisma, some more flavor, I could add it. You know, some sound effects. Yeah, baby, I could do that.
Well,
That's my
he's got
job.
that taken
That's
care
you
of.
right there.
I get too
All right.
involved in the game.
All right, I figured out a new punchline then.
Butler coming up, going
Yeah.
to Hinkle Fieldhouse. The great opportunity you guys have. I'm sure some of you guys watched the finish they had against Gonzaga, know how good they are at home. But
Yeah.
as Coach says, it's a great opportunity for you guys. And talk about how you prepared and what you expect on Wednesday.
We expect to win. We're not going up there. It's a business trip. We expect to win, nothing less. And I think our guys are expecting the same thing. We're coming off a 2-game losing streak, and the sense of urgency to get this dub is huge. So we're ready for it.
Well, good luck. I'm looking forward
you.
to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I appreciate it.
And we'll see you on Wednesday. And thanks so much for coming by tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
And good luck the rest of the year as you wrap things up your senior season. Lamar Bradbury has been our guest here on the Allen Major Show, brought to us by Ortho Carolina tonight. Back with the coach in a moment. Our phone number 704-332-0173 here until 8 o'clock. The Allen Major Show from IMG College. Welcome back to the Allen Major Show. We've got about 17 more minutes before we wrap things up tonight. Still plenty of time to hear from you. Our phone number 704-332-0173. 332-0173. Niners at Butler and at St. Louis this week as they look to continue their strong season here in the Atlantic 10, coming in at 5-4, and there's still that logjam in the top half of the conference right now, Coach. A little bit of separation for the top three teams, a 2-game lead now, but so much basketball left. We touched on the pregame show before the VCU game that wouldn't be surprised if the winner of this league has 4 losses, maybe 5, but probably in that 4 number. So there's still a lot of opportunity left out there for the Niners.
It is, with 7 games left. What you're seeing is different teams are kind of running into that. I kind of use a biblical phrase, a little bit of wall of Jericho, so to speak. Is that everybody's got one. I mean, you go through every conference in the country. I was talking to Thad Mata today from Ohio State, and we were just, 30% of it was talking shop. The other 70% was just, hey, buddy, how you doing?
Yeah.
Because they had a tough week last week at Michigan in overtime, and then Indiana yesterday. So they played 2 top 5 teams. But every team has got their, little stretch where you're up against it. But, again, you try to use that to your advantage and grow out of it. And sometimes, the pressure can be on the places that you're going. For them to maintain whatever status they have, especially if they're ahead of you, the pressure's on them. I mean, they've got to hold court.
You have nothing to lose.
Right, absolutely.
In the VCU game, Perrier Henry, who was recruited, I think at one point had thought about going to VCU.
Had committed to him.
Yeah. I thought that was a game that he was going to see a lot of pressure, and he did. I thought he handled himself really well. He distributed the ball, only turned it over 4 times, had some steals, and he gave you another look on the offensive side again, too. He's getting more and more confidence driving the basketball this year.
He had a couple of great full-court finishes, too, just kind of beating their pressure. And a lot of times, and I think Denzel will grow into that, is that when you see a guy that is really trying to chew on your full court, sometimes you treat fire with fire, So a lot of times just that straight burst and just going by him is better than, going side to side. So, but P had some side to side going last year as a freshman guard. He would do that a little bit more side to side. And now he's become more of a straight line guy, especially when you got that space in the open court to your advantage.
I've been here for a while now, but I have not seen anybody take a loss harder than Perrier. He takes it very personal.
Yeah.
And after the game against Temple, you could just see as you get on the plane that this was something that was really kind of eating at him, and he does not like to lose.
Yeah, his last high school game, this is when I knew we had the right guy. I think it was the quarterfinals, the West Virginia State Championships. Ryan Odom goes to the game. And, you wait around, and he had already committed to us, so you're waiting around afterwards just to say hello. And the kid, he never saw the kid. I mean, it's Ryan and the janitor, whistling. And well, that's the 2 guys left in the gym. Turns out Perry calls him the next day and says, "Hey, Coach, I'm sorry. I know you came to the game, but I couldn't let you see me crying like that." So when Ryan tells me that, I said, "Look, don't get mad at him for not coming out. We got the right guy. I mean, for a guy to take it like that, that's how you want guys to feel."
One of the things that I've been impressed with, and especially Saturday, was the number of boards that he gets. I mean, even though he's a guard, the first thing, and I don't know what you've got assignment-wise, but the first thing he wants to make sure of is that we maintain the rebound, especially on the defensive end, because that's where he got the most of his rebounds.
Right.
But make sure we get the ball before we worry about the break.
Yep, that's it. And I think at times if Denzel, depending on the matchup, if Denzel's guarding their point guard, sometimes Perry might be on a guy that's a high-level scorer that plays off the ball. So when you're off the ball, you're going to be below the foul line a lot of times when a shot goes up, or you're going to be in that wing area on down. Whereas if you guard the point guard, a lot of times you're up top, and the rebounds you get are going to be those long ones. Whereas, when he's chasing a guy maybe, off screens along the baseline or something, then a shot goes up, he's down there where he can be in the mix. And the nice part about him is it's like, just add water. When he gets a rebound, the break starts.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't have to get it to anybody else. He can get it and go.
One of the things you looked at him last year as a freshman and coming into the season, the work he put in, especially in the video room, watching himself last summer, and the improvement we've seen this season, and on all sides of his game. As he goes into the next offseason, again, a high ceiling, 2 years left, where do you think that next level improvement is with Perrier?
I think 2 things. One is what you call a tight mid-range jump shot, because right now when he's got a head of steam going to the rim, he's tough to deal with. And so now it's getting into that, we call it the logo area, getting in that A10 area, and just a 1-2 dribble, bang, bang, pull-up for teams that want to try to crowd the rim.
Kind of like what Denzel has.
Denzel's got that, yep, and Terrence is
T. Will has he's developed that too. That 12 to 14
he's
foot.
One of the best guys we have at it, and Victor's in that.
He's coming in
range
there,
too. So all those guys have kind of added that piece, and then I would say the next thing is just being more of a deep guy, where especially if people play zone, that you can be out there and be a threat and get yourself to where you're that 35%, 3-point shooter. Not shooting a ton of them. Just making sure the open, obvious ones, you keep people honest that way. What that'll do is that'll make the floor even bigger for them now, because they'll have to close out and respect them.
It's always tough to change a shooter. I know we got a break coming up, but it's always tough to change a shooter when he's gotten this far along in his career.
Yeah.
And one thing you notice about Perrier, there's been so many shooters over the years that have unique aspects of their shot. His is a very high arcing shot.
Right.
So at times it's not very forgiving.
Right. And I think with him is getting to the point in the off season. It's reps, but it's also the right reps, and that's where it's great having this summer period again. We'll get back in there and chip away at that part of it. But that's the next thing with him, is just that low mid-range area and just being just that keep you honest, type of deep ball guy.
Coach, next break coming up, so we'll take it. We'll step aside here at Wild Wing Cafe. This is the Allen Major Show. Stick around from IMG College. Welcome back to the Allen Major Show, our final segment here tonight. Phone number 704-332-0173. We're out at Wild Wing Cafe, 711 West Mallard Creek Church Road. Join us here next Monday again at 7 o'clock for the next installment of the Allen Major Show. Before we get into Butler again, let's go back to the phone lines where Dave has been patiently standing by through the break. Dave, welcome to the Allen Major Show.
Hey, Matt, thank you again for having me, Lanny and Coach Major. I always enjoy either coming to the show or listening to the show, so I appreciate it a lot. And
how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, thank you. And Connie and I just can't wait to come to every game.
Well, we appreciate it.
Absolutely. And before I forget, I just want you to tell the guys, they got thousands of people here in the Charlotte area rooting for them, Wednesday and Saturday. I mean,
thank you.
Thousands of people, so they just need to remember that.
We'll pass it along. And people have been incredible this year, the fans, and Niner Nation. Halton's has really been something, a special place to be this year.
It's just been a blast, and I know it will continue. Hey, this is a question. I didn't grow up playing basketball, but so VCU is an up-tempo team, right?
Correct.
Okay. Is it part of being an up-tempo team where they're pressing and pressing full court, three-quarter court, half court, almost the entire game? What's the strategy with that, and is that part of being up-tempo?
Yeah, you probably saw on the back of their warm-up shirts they had the word called havoc. And what that whole concept is basically it's designed to try to speed up an opponent into playing a style that they aren't used to or that they don't practice every day. It would probably be likened under the football field, whereas if a team is a running team, they practice against the run, quite a bit. When they're working on their own schemes, they probably don't throw the ball much. Well, that's why a lot of teams have gone to the spread or the run and shoot because it's unique in football. Well, it's not unique anymore because everybody's doing it, but that pressing style is similar to the spread in football. It's quick hitting, it's up tempo, and it's designed in a general sense to try to make the opponent maybe play a little bit faster than they're used to.
Okay. Well, it just seemed it opens up. It seemed to open up I guess their side of the court or our side. That if you can get it down the court fast enough, it just seemed that the basket just seemed open, but it's getting it down there. It's just a pain.
Right. No. Once we got it in there, we did. We had some opportunities. Whether it was Perrier went coast to coast a couple of times. We had a couple of where we just threw it over the top and beat them down the floor for layups for bigs. So, but no, and I thought in the full court we handled it pretty well. I thought part of their game plan was to try to come after some of our younger, inexperienced kids a bit. But these are all great things for us to learn. And again, it's tough to lose a game, but you always tell the kids you lose a game, but always make sure you steal the lesson.
Oh yeah. Well, it was a great game. We thoroughly enjoyed it. And I know the fans did well. Anyway, good luck at Butler and at St. Louis, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, Dave. We'll see you soon, buddy.
Absolutely.
Say hi to Connie.
I will.
All right, thanks so much for the phone call, Dave. Coach, as he mentioned, the havoc style that VCU plays. Back in 1994, Nolan Richardson took his Arkansas Razorbacks here to Charlotte, the old Coliseum in Tyavola, won a national championship in the Final Four here. How much of the style that VCU plays now, is that a modern-day version of the 40 minutes of hell that Arkansas used to play?
I would say so. Yeah, I would say so. Sometimes it isn't that they're trying to even steal it.
Right.
It's just
more of the harassment.
Here we are.
Saturday.
Yeah, it's a neighbor that keeps borrowing your lawnmower every 2 weeks. It's like you hear a knock on the door and the guy's standing there and you're like, come on now, he's back again, right? So that's kind of the feeling that they try to give you. So yeah, I would say it's similar to that because that was the brand back then is that we're going to get after you. Might take you. We may get you in 25 minutes before we break you open. Might take us 30 minutes. Might take us 35 minutes. But our point is, they're eventually going to try to break you open and blow you out and win by 20, 25 points. So we had the game in terms of a tempo standpoint and scoring is where we wanted it.
Right.
It was just a matter of just a few missed opportunities there, either via the turnover or or getting some key stops. But they made some big-time shots when they needed to.
Well, we're almost up against the 2-minute warning here, so let's quickly break down Butler. 5 players in double figures. Rodney Clark is their leading scorer. He's back from the neck injury. He's missed 3 games this year, but only 2 in conference play, averaging 16 a game. Now, we talked about they're without Andrew Smith, but talk about Clark and what he brings to the table.
Experience is one. You know, again, you're talking about a guy that's been through a lot of battles. You know, he's a guy that he's playing the point, even though he's probably a 2 guard by trade. He's playing the point, so he can really shoot the ball. You just don't want to give him any space. And I think one way we can be successful is trying to make him worry more about handling the ball versus shooting the ball. If he's concerned about dribbling it and taking care of it and getting the ball to people, the more he does that, the less he's shooting shots.
And one thing about Butler, you know, this is Coach Stevens' 6th year now. It seems like even when somebody goes down, like Clark did earlier, like Smith has now, they always have somebody to pop in that spot. And if they don't play as well, it's almost as well, and they don't miss a beat. This is going back now 6 years.
Yeah, and they've traditionally been 7 or 8 guys deep. And you start looking at this particular stat sheet, this is probably one of the deeper teams he's had. You know, in our personnel deal in the locker room, we got 10 guys up there that we're talking about. So now the 10th doesn't play a ton, but they're at least 9 deep. And with Smith, they'll be 8 deep, but they got another guy ready to go. So they'll still be 9 deep on Wednesday.
How about a couple of keys to a win?
Yeah, I think just keeping our poise, handling the physicality of the game, that'll be a big one. Offensively, no empty possessions. You know, limit the empty possessions, getting in the shots you want, in the areas you want them. And then defensively, you know, trying to make them take tough twos. They're very good when they get the old-fashioned three-point play, or guys like Rodney Clark or Kellen Dunham can get the traditional threes. So you try to make them, limit them to twos as much as you can, and make those twos as tough as you can.
All right, there you have it. The Butler game coming up on Wednesday night from Hinkle Fieldhouse. Before we wrap up the show, I want to congratulate the Niner women's team who won again this weekend. And I think today ESPN.com had them as their team of the week in college basketball. So congratulations to the Niner women who are playing a fantastic season yet again. Join us on Wednesday for the pregame show from Butler. Lanny, take it away.
And I think you got a pretty good practice in for physicality this past weekend, so you should be ready for that.
That's right.
We'll wrap it up here from Wild Wing Cafe. Remember, we will be on air game time Saturday.
7, I believe, so on the air at
6:30. And then we'll be on the air, Bobby and I, at 1:50 on Sunday for the women as they take on George Washington from Halton Arena. For Matt Swearhead, Coach Alan Major, I'm Lanny Ford. Have a good night, everybody.